The story of Job, it's one of the most powerful stories about suffering and faith in human history. But what if I told you that hidden inside this ancient poem is a fascinating historical detective story? The biggest question isn't just why he suffered, but when and where this story even takes place. So today, let's grab our magnifying glasses and solve this thing. Right, so the book doesn't just hand us a date. There's no in the 5th year of King so-and-so. It's a real cold case. So that's our mission today, to act like historical detectives, to sift through the clues, and to pinpoint Job's exact place on the timeline of the ancient world. And get this, our entire case file is the book itself. Every single clue we need is hiding in plain sight in the little details about Job's life, his culture, and the way he talks. Our investigation starts in this mysterious land of Uz, which scholars think was somewhere east of Canaan, maybe around modern-day Jordan or even northern Arabia. Okay, time for clue number 1. And for this, we're going to do what detectives always do. We're going to follow the money. Or in this case, the complete lack of it. So the book makes it clear that Job was one of the wealthiest men around. But look at his portfolio. It's all on 4 legs. We're talking thousands of sheep, thousands of camels, hundreds of oxen and donkeys. It's a massive amount of wealth. But do you notice what's missing? Yeah, there's no money, not a single mention of gold coins, silver shekels, nothing. His entire net worth is walking around and eating grass. This tells us he lived in a nomadic, pastoral society. This is way before settled kingdoms with minted currency. This is an economy on the move. That is a huge clue. All right. Let's move on to our next piece of evidence. This one isn't about economics, it's about religion. And trust me, it's a big one. So you have to picture a time before there was an organized national religion, before there was a temple or a formal priesthood like the Levites in ancient Israel. Back then, all those religious duties, they fell to the head of the family. The patriarch was the CEO, the protector, and the family priest. And this is exactly what we see Job doing. The book describes how he personally would offer sacrifices on behalf of his children. He was their direct spiritual connection to God. This practice is straight out of the age of figures like Abraham and Jacob, long before the law of Moses came along and set up a formal priesthood. Okay, clue number 3. This one is just a number, but oh man, does it speak volumes about the era we're talking about. It all comes down to how long Job lived. The text tells us that after all his suffering was over, after his health and fortune were restored, Job lived for another 140 years. Just let that sink in for a second. That's not his total age. That's how many years he lived after the main story was over. Now, a lifespan like that seems almost impossible if you compare him to later guys like King David, who lived to be about 70. But what if you put him next to the patriarchs? Well, then it fits like a glove. Abraham lived to be 175. Job's incredible old age puts him squarely in that same ancient time period. This final clue is maybe the most precise one we have. It's like a theological timestamp, hidden in the very words the characters use for God. Throughout all the deep, poetic debates in the book, you see a couple of names for God used over and over again. El Shaddai, which means God Almighty, and another ancient name, Eloah. And here is the clincher. These are the exact titles for God used by the patriarchs, by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The more personal name for God, Yahweh, wasn't fully revealed until much later, to Moses at the burning bush. So the very vocabulary of the book is like a giant fingerprint pointing to an era before Moses. So let's recap. We've looked at the economy, the religious customs, the human lifespan, and even the specific language used for God. All the clues are on the table. It's time to deliver the verdict. When you piece it all together, the conclusion is pretty much inescapable. Every single clue points in the exact same direction. Job was living during the patriarchal age. He was a contemporary of men like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, probably somewhere around 2000 BC. This timeline really puts it into perspective. Job isn't just an old story from the Bible. He lived hundreds of years before Moses ever went up Mount Sinai. We're talking a full 1,000 years before King David sat on the throne in Jerusalem. He is truly deeply ancient. So who cares? Why does this historical detective work matter? Because knowing that Job lived before the law of Moses changes how you read the entire book. Think about it. He's wrestling with God and his friends with no rule book. There are no Ten Commandments, no formal religious laws, no system to fall back on. His struggle is just this raw, unfiltered, personal search for justice in a world where the rules hadn't even been written down yet.
And that's really the final thought I want to leave you with. Here's a man demanding answers from the creator of the universe with absolutely no legal or theological framework to guide him. So, knowing that, how does it change the way you understand his profound, agonizing search for a justice he can't even define, but knows in his bones he deserves?